saying congratulations on this brand new single. We've played it a couple of times on our show and we've been getting some absolutely great feedback, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. That's great to hear.
So tell us a little bit about Fluorescent as a track. Like I said, our listeners are loving it, so tell us a little bit about how the track came into being.
Yeah, so look, it's actually been a really slow kind of burn. Like normally with songs I write them really fast. This one's been something I've been working on for almost a year. I kind of became inspired by these little moments. I moved from Canberra to Sydney and I found Sydney just such a shock to the system, and there were just these really beautiful moments, like maybe after a gig you're walking home late at night and you're just, through a park and everything feels so serene, and then these really hectic moments where, you're walking home from your 9 to 5 in, heavy traffic on a busy street, hearing all the noises of the buses and everything, and that can feel really grating. So it was kind of written through those little moments of inspiration that I found.
It is such an unusual feeling. I went through it as well. I grew up in a small country town, first of all in Tasmania and then in Gippsland, and then suddenly went to university in Melbourne, and people don't realise unless they've been through it what a kind of culture shock it is. Was there moments when it really, really hit you and you thought, I need to try and capture this moment in song?
Definitely. I think one of the really big moments was during the bushfires, when there was that really thick smoke over Sydney, and it was just one of those really humid days, and I was just walking down, I think it was like Cleveland Street, and I literally felt like I couldn't breathe in the air because of the combination of the smoke and the pollution and everything. And that was one of those moments where I was like, it feels like I'm on fire when I breathe in. So that ended up as a lyric in the song.
You mentioned that this song was a little bit of a slow burn. Do you think there was a reason for that? Was this a song where you had to gather various thoughts to put it all together?
I think so, definitely, because it was a combination of feeling, I think what's come across in the song is that combination of feeling frustrated, but also, as I said, finding those like happy little moments in amongst that hectic frustration. And so obviously, when you feel a bit angry or a bit disheartened, you sit down at your guitar, you write those parts, and it's very hard to flip that and think of all the positive things that you like as well. So I think that's why it was a slow burn. It was that back and forth process, and it was really me kind of coming to terms, I think, with my thoughts on the city as well.
It's also been a weird couple of years as well, especially being in a new city. What has that been like for you as a performer with all the lockdowns and things like that, and not being able to get out and do as many shows as you normally would? What's that been like for you as well?
Yeah, it's been pretty disheartening, I would say, especially with the move, because you feel like you're establishing yourself a bit, you're getting a bit of a run of connections, or, you've booked some big shows that you're really excited to play, and then just watching things be cancelled. And I think the first time we were actually midway through a tour in 2020 when COVID shut that down. We were just about to go kind of Melbourne, Geelong, that way. And we had to cancel that whole tour, and of course that's devastating with everything that goes into it. But I think what's been even harder is doing it all the second time. We had a string of shows planned for this year, and just watching them be cancelled one by one, it's hard not to feel like you're just back at square one.
Yeah.
But the thing that I have been really inspired by both times now after lockdown is the way that Sydney seems to just bounce back. Within 20 minutes, I'll be getting gig requests and things are happening again, 20 minutes after they've announced the end of lockdown, which is a really great feeling.
And was it even difficult to record during that time? Like, I know that you've been able to record this track, but was it difficult to record? Because I know here in Melbourne, studios were in lockdown, which made it difficult for artists to get into to do the actual recording of tracks.
Yeah, it was difficult, and it was a little bit hard to know what the rules were. Like there were times when we couldn't go in to record, other times when we could. There was a bit of a grey area, I think, for a brief time where nobody was really sure. We were lucky enough. This song was recorded quite a while back, before things got really bad in Sydney. So we were fortunate for that. But it's also just nerve-wracking not knowing, whether your plans are going to go ahead with studio bookings and things like that. I think we were all very cautious when we did go to the studio. I had a COVID test just to be safe. But yeah, it was definitely a stress, and even just sorting out like a release date and a launch show was so hard because you weren't sure when things were going to open up.
Definitely. And also, like, the launch show for you is on December the 12th. How excited are you being able to get out there and actually doing a launch show for this single?
I'm so excited. It's actually our first show after lockdown, which is very exciting for me. I've been a bit cautious this time. I just wanted to avoid that disappointment of booking things and having them fall through again. But I think it's going to be a really good afternoon. It's this Sunday, and we've got some really great support acts joining us as well. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Does it feel like a real reawakening, being able to get back out there and do shows again? I know a lot of the artists I've spoken to have said it's been kind of okay for them being in lockdown because it's given them an opportunity to work on new music, to work on albums, but it doesn't feel complete until you're able to get out there and do shows. Is that something that you've been feeling as well?
Definitely. It's almost like a song doesn't feel real until you played it live to a group of people.
Yeah.
And, yesterday we were in rehearsal with my band getting ready for Sunday, and just suddenly I had this moment of just almost hearing these songs. Like, we've got all these new songs from lockdown, and just it felt like I was hearing them for the first time because we're all just playing them in a room physically, and it just breathes life into them in a way that you just can't get when you're playing a guitar by yourself on your balcony.
And, of course, the question that a few people have been asking since they've heard Fluorescent is this part of something bigger? Can we expect a new EP from you or a new album in the not-too-distant future?
Good question. Not at this stage. I think I'm just looking at, obviously COVID's disrupted a lot. So I think at this point you can expect a single early next year, but it's not part of a bigger project at this stage.
Awesome. So we're going to play Fluorescent again on our show very, very soon, but I was wondering, how can people help you out at the moment? I know the last couple of years have been really, really tough for artists not being able to do shows. Is there a way that our listeners can help you out at the moment, even if it's just sharing tracks and things like that?
Absolutely. Look, the more support we can get, the better at this point. I think things are mostly still online. So by all means, come to a show when we do get to Melbourne or, when we're in your area. But, have a listen to us on Spotify, share it with your friends. We've also got a music video out for Fluorescent, which you can watch on YouTube. We've also got some merch on Bandcamp. If you're so inclined, I can post you a t-shirt or a tote bag. Just really, at this point, getting involved and having a listen to us would mean the world.
Definitely. And if you are listening to our podcast, of course, because our show's only in Melbourne, but our podcast in Sydney, then definitely check out Hedy's show on December the 12th at Yuli's Brews in Sydney. And we'll put a link up there so that people will be able to find that as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. We're going to take another listen to Fluorescent on our show now. So is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners before they take another listen to this amazing track?
I just want to say thanks so much for listening, and thank you for the support so far.